Washington, this is VOA News. U.S. Secret Service chief resigns. Hong Kong protesters threaten to seize buildings. I'm Ray Kouguell reporting from Washington. The director of the U.S. Secret Service, Julia Pierson, has resigned after two major security lapses that could have put President Obama in danger. White House spokesman Josh Earnest says Pierson met with the president, who accepted her resignation.
Over the last several days, we've seen recent and accumulating reports raising questions about the performance of the agency. And the president concluded that new leadership of that agency was required.
Pierson faced tough questions from Congress this week after two serious breaches in security last month. Iraq War veteran Omar Gonzalez, who was armed with a knife, jumped the White House fence and ran into the presidential mansion after eluding security. He was arrested inside one of the rooms. The president and his family were not in the building. 3 days earlier, an armed security guard with a criminal record got on an elevator with Mr. Obama and his security detail in the southern city of Atlanta, Georgia. Hong Kong protesters are raising the stakes in anti-government demonstrations gripping the city, warning that students will occupy government buildings if the Chinese territory's chief executive does not resign. Protesters issued their ultimatum Wednesday, saying pro-Beijing chief executive Leung Chun-ying must step down by the end of the day Thursday, or they will storm the buildings. Texas Governor Rick Perry says health officials are keeping watch on as many as 18 people who came in contact with the first patient to be diagnosed with Ebola in the United States. They include 5 school children. The Ebola patient from Liberia, identified as Thomas Eric Duncan, is in isolation in a Dallas hospital. He is listed as serious but stable condition. This is VOA News. U.S.-led airstrikes hit near a key Syrian border town for a second straight day as Kurdish fighters defend the area from Islamic State militants. The U.S. military confirmed 3 strikes Wednesday near Kobani, destroying an Islamic State tank, artillery, and an armed vehicle. In neighboring Iraq, the U.S. military says aircraft targeted 5 Islamic State positions, including an occupied building in Mosul. British jets were busy carrying out their second day of airstrikes, hitting ISIS vehicles west of Baghdad. Twin car bomb explosions in the central Syrian city of Homs Wednesday killed at least 32 people and wounded scores of others. Syrian state media says 10 children died in the bombings that occurred near a primary school. Edward Uranian reports.
Amateur video showed people scattering after a car bomb exploded in front of a school in Syria's third largest city of Homs. It remains unclear who carried out the attack. In northern Syria, near the Turkish border, Kurdish fighters battled Islamic State militants on the outskirts of the besieged Kurdish town of Kobani. Edward Uranian for VOA News, Cairo.
President Obama and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu met at the White House Wednesday for their first face-to-face talk since Israel's war with Hamas militants in Gaza in July and August left more than 2,100 Palestinians dead, mostly civilians. Mr. Obama said Israel and the Palestinians have to find ways to change the status quo to resolve issues that led to the fighting. Mr. Netanyahu praised the U.S. leader for unflinching support during the conflict, but said the possibility of Iran developing a nuclear weapon is even more critical. At least 10 people were killed Wednesday when shells hit near a school and a minibus in eastern Ukraine's rebel-held city of Donetsk. The prime minister of the separatist self-declared Donetsk People's Republic, Alexander Zakharchenko, says the rebels now control 90% of the Donetsk airport. Former Bosnian Serb leader Radovan Karadzic began his closing arguments at his trial in The Hague, maintaining his innocence of wrongdoing during the 1990 Bosnia War and admitting only moral responsibility. He is charged with 11 crimes, including genocide for Srebrenica, where almost 8,000 Muslim men and boys were slaughtered in 1995 by Serb forces under General Ratko Mladenović's command. Prosecutors are seeking the maximum penalty of life imprisonment. And the death toll from last Saturday's massive volcanic eruption in central Japan is now at 48, after rescuers found 12 more bodies Wednesday. Hundreds of police and soldiers, aided by helicopters, continue searching the mountain. I'm Ray Kouguell in Washington.
That's the latest world news from VOA.